Okay, remember Amid Aleph at the bottom of 46A1, the very last two lines in the art scroll for 46A21, and it's about 10 lines from the top. The first word on the word is mi ben. V'hayim v'akasarasha azhara. So the last word in line is azhara. Just right next to Tosfos bishlama. This share is for the schus of the prisoners, the captives, the kidnapped people, and the cholim. Amar Vaba, excuse me. Azhar lemotzi shemra minalan. So motzi shemra, what's the case of motzi shemra? Motzi shemra is a case where a man says, my wife is not a virgin, she must have, or I have a feeling, or someone told me that she committed adultery after I gave her the kedushin, after I gave her the ring, but before the chuppah, so she committed adultery. So motzi shemra is if it ended up that he was lying about it, and the Gemara is going to give us a certain parameters of which it happened and what he says and what he does, that he will actually get the punishment. So obviously, if witnesses that came and said that she did commit adultery, and then other witnesses came and said you are false witnesses because you were with us in Vegas the day that you claimed it happened, so you couldn't have seen that. So the Adam ended up being false. So they get skila because they were trying to give her skila. She would get stoned to death. So they get skila, and the husband gets lashes, and he has to pay 100 silver pieces. So where's so we know that the punishment says v'anchos omi kesef, he has to pay 100 shekel. But so that's the punishment. In general, the Gemara seems to say that for every avera, there has to be a pasuk that tells you it's asur and a separate pasuk that tells you the punishment. If there's no punishment, you get malchus. So what's the lav, the pasuk that tells us that you're not allowed to be motzi shemra? Azhar motzi shemra minalan. Rabbi Elazar amar milo selach rachel. Rabbi Elazar says, don't go as a tail bearer. The Chavetz Chaim obviously uses it as one of the surma of lashon hara, but lo selach rachel be'amacha. Rabbi Nassan amar mivinishmart mi kol davar ra. And you should guard yourself from all evil things. So the pasuk from that is it's either at the end of Shoftim or Kiseitze. It's talking about going to war. V'nishmartem mikol davar ra. So v'nishmar, to guard yourself, is, Rashi points out, is one of the four words that doesn't say not, but they are indicative of a negative commandment. Rabbi Elazar, my time Amar Mehai. Why does Rabbi Elazar not learn it out from V'nishmart Mikol Ra? How Pinchas ben Yair? Because he needs to guard yourself from all evil things to learn the halach of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. V'nishmart Mikol Davar Ra. Mikan Amar Pinchas ben Yair al Yahar Adam B'Yam V'Yavle Deituma B'Layla. A person shouldn't think of illicit thoughts in the daytime, because then at the evening he's going to sin. So this is talking about looking at inappropriate things of a sexual nature, things like that, because then you'll become tamei at night. So Rashi says, so why is that mikol davar ra? Because the next pasuk says that if someone is tamei because they had a seminal emission, they're not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash. They have to go to the mikvah first and wait for shkia. So because of the juxtaposition, so Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair says that this is a special lav to keep us away from sexual sins. Rabbi Nassan, my time Amar Me'ahai. Why doesn't Rabbi Nassan learn the pasuk like Rabbi Elazar from Lo Selech Rachel Be'amecha? Don't be a tail bearer among your people. How as her lebeis and shlo yehei rachel as evakashal as that? Because he holds that that's a halacha warning based in that they can't be lenient on one person and strict on another person. There's Gemara's at the beginning of Daf Zayin, I think, or Vav in Sanhedrin, that says, let's say a poor person is suing a rich person, and really the poor person his claim is really not okay. It has no merit. The rich guy isn't gonna miss the money if you would say the rich guy has to pay the poor guy. But you know that it's not true. So you're not the basin is not allowed to paskin a psak that's not true, even though in the mean by doing so, no one's going to be upset and it's going to help support a poor person. Lahavdil, Mayor LaGuardia, who they say he was Jewish because his mother was Jewish in New York before he was mayor when he was a night court judge. They had there's a story that a baker brought someone to court because he caught him stealing a loaf of bread. So why did he steal a loaf of bread? Because he didn't have a job and he needed to feed his family. So he stole a loaf of bread. So LaGuardia ruled in the night court that everyone in the room had to pay 25 cents, whatever. He passed around his hat. They collected the money and they gave it to the poor man so he'd have some money. And I think they must have given the poor guy a loaf of bread, money for the loaf of bread. But that idea is that what he did was wrong. But if there's an underlying thing, there's a separate mitzvah of tzedakah to help the person who's poor. But if he did do something wrong, he has to make the restitution that he's owed. So if someone who sometimes in this we see this in courts a lot of all the times today, people send in these letters to the judge. Oh, I know this guy, even if he's guilty of this, but he's done so much for the community, this, and this. Be lenient when you sentence him. So what this is based, this halacha is saying not that the Beis Din has much leeway in how to pass in certain cases, but they're not allowed to be strict on one guy and lenient for the other guy for the same thing. Just because this guy, you think he needs a firm hand to stop him, to get him on the straight and narrow, and this guy, it's not going to help anyway, so why bother, or whatever the reason. You have to be equal, lahavdil, equal justice for all. And I say lahavdil because I'm not sure that that's exactly what the meaning of that is not exactly what the Gemara here is saying, but you can't be lenient for this one or mean to this one. Or also, I was just assuming about the justice, but actually it's also they have to be fair in the way they ask the questions and treat the people. I think there's a Gemara beginning of Shavuos Eidos about Daf Lamed, around Daf Lamed or Lamed Aleph in Shavuos about that, about showing respect. And even there it says if the wife of a Talmid Chacham would come in, they would have to stand up for the wife as if she's the Talmid Chacham. But also you have to speak. You also have to treat everyone. You can't treat one guy mean and one guy nice as the case is going on. You have to treat them the same. Lo amar la'edim bo ve'eduni. So now we're back to the case. How does motzi shemra happen? If the husband did not tell Adam, please come and give testimony on my behalf that my wife committed adultery, and they gave the testimony by themselves without being solicited by the husband. Who ain't no and then they were found to be false witnesses. Who ain't no lokev ain't no nosin mea slime. He does not have to pay his fine or get lashes. And so meaning that the case, according to this brisa, the case of the punishment for motzi shemra applies only when he put the whole plan into play. He hired witnesses, we'll see, and they testified. But if he didn't hire the witnesses, but he participated in it once they testified and said that she committed adultery, even though his claim was false, but because he didn't put the whole wheels in motion and he didn't solicit their false testimony, he doesn't get the special punishment. And he was on she and the Adam Zomimim go to Beis Haskila, they get lashes, they get stoned to death. So the Gemara says, and we saw this last week, I mean, it had quoted on the previous stop. He was on she and the Adam. If the Adam are false, then she did nothing wrong. So if they get killed, she doesn't get killed. If she gets killed, they don't get killed because we presume that they testified truthfully. So Elaohi ozoma meha. So you have to read, and either she gets skila if the witnesses seem to be telling the truth, and if they were found to be Adam Zomimim, she doesn't go to the base of skila. They go to the execution place and get killed. So from this brisa, the reason why he doesn't get the punishment is because he did not solicit the testimony from these false witnesses. But from the text is he didn't say them. I used the word hire. That's because I learned the Gemara a few lines down, but it doesn't say he didn't hire them. It just said that he didn't. So the Gemara is just saying he only said he didn't speak to the witnesses. So the Gemara is making a diuk and saying he doesn't have to actually hire them. He just has to speak to them beforehand and solicit their testimony, even not for pay. Lafukin Rabbi Yehuda. And this opinion, this brisa, argues on the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda requires the husband to actually hire the witnesses. The Tana Rabbi Yehuda Mer Eno Chayvat Sheyiskor Edom. He's not obligated for his punishment unless he actually hired the Edom for money. My time at Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda that he actually has to hire them for money? Am Rabbi Bo asked Sima Sima. He learns a shava from the word Sima. He placed upon her a litany of things, a complaint. The word sam is to place. And it says you can't place on him interest, because a Jew is not allowed to charge interest on a loan to another Jew. So malahalon mamon afkan mamon. So just like when we're talking about the interest, the usury, it's money. So here too, when the husband comes with his complaint against his wife, he had to have paid money for their testimony. So from our brisa, the brisa that we had just quoted would say that if he solicited their testimony, even though he didn't pay, then he would have to pay the 100 shekel and get lashes. The only time that he's exempt is if he didn't even solicit them, he didn't talk to them about their testimony beforehand, and they came and he participated in this charade, he's exempt. But had he spoken to them beforehand to plan it, then he would be chayav. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not enough to plan it and to talk to the Edom or solicit their testimony. You actually have to pay them. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak v'chein tani Rav Yosef Tzidoni bei Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. And similarly, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, and it was also taught by Rav Yosef Tzidoni. Tzidoni, I guess, is he was from Sidon, which was a port city. So Tzidon is Sidon. So I guess this Rav Yosef was from Sidon and taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Asya Sima. He also gave the same reason. He learns the drasha, the Gzer Shava of Sima, from interest. So there had to have been money involved. By Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked. Now, Rabbi Yirmiyah, sometimes he asked questions that are a little bit nitpicky. So there's a case in Bava Metzia where they threw him out of the base medrash because they felt his questions were out of line. So here his questions aren't out of line, but you'll see they're a little nitpicky. I don't know. I know a better word for it right now. But scharan bekarka mahu. What if he hired them, but didn't pay them with money, but he paid them with a piece of property? With real estate, not with money. There's interest that in the Torah, when it's talking about neshach umarbis, that's talking about paying money, cash money, not with karka. So if he hired them and paid them with karka, is that considered that he hired them and he would get the punishments according to Rabbi Yehuda or not?
Karka is for future.
Karka means real estate, meaning instead of giving them $20, he had a little field, a corner of his field, whatever they didn't want. So he said, you could build an outhouse over here for yourself or whatever, you know.
Is it a final deal?
He made a deal with them. He said, meaning there's two things, you know. One way to say, I want to hire you guys to give testimony that's false. I'm going to pay you each $20. So he's paying them cash. This case, instead of paying them $20, he says, I have this little field in the middle of nowhere and I don't need it. I'll give you the field on behalf of testifying. So instead of paying them with cash, he's paying them with the real estate.
It's totally illegal, right?
It's illegal to pay for money also. Yes.
No, illegal to hire a witness.
Yes, it's illegal to hire the witnesses. But he's hired them for a lie anyway. So he gets this punishment, this special punishment,
okay.
partially because he hired him. Right, he's not allowed to do it, but he did it. He's committing a crime by hiring them to testify falsely.
And plus to this for
But because
deal.
right, but the transaction would still take place if people wouldn't find out about it. What if he hired them for a penny each, less than the value of a pruta? Because to charge interest, it has to be something that's worth money, and the money is a pruta. If you hire them for a value less than that, is that considered hiring them for money? And according to Rabbi Yehuda, when they're found out, he would be liable. Or is it considered not for money? And according to Rabbi Yehuda, he wouldn't get the two punishments of lashes and paying the 100 shekel. 100.
What if obvious witnesses decline to testify?
You mean for witnesses who really saw it?
Yeah, and there's I'm not gonna go to them.
So if someone, are you talking about a monetary case or a death penalty case?
Of the whole procedure, are they obligated? I know they're obligated to testify, right?
Yeah. So
what if they decide, oh, I'm not going to do that?
So then the person who needs their testimony can bring them to Beis Din and force them to take a shavua. It's a biblical oath that what it's in Torah in Parshas Vayikra, at the end of Parshas Vayikra, or near the end of Parshas Vayikra. So if they don't want to testify, he can bring them to Beis Din and force them to take an oath that they don't know testimony on his behalf. So the threat, because making an oath is such a strict, serious avera, it's one of the 10 commandments, don't take my name falsely, and then other averas also, remember, took my name in vain. So that would compel them to tell the truth, the testimony that they know, and not stay quiet. I mean, we saw in the previous parak, there was a case where someone didn't remember testimony, and the guy tried to remind them of the situation, and then if it ended up that they remembered that it happened, they were allowed to testify. But in that case, they didn't remember the testimony. So he wasn't allowed to coach them and say, just testify this on my behalf. The Gemara said that they eventually remembered because he told them about it. Or we saw a case where you didn't remember it, but you had it written down in your notes or your ledger, or Lahavdil, Justice Kavanaugh had his calendars from high school, and he wasn't at a party that night. If you have your calendar, now it's a Google calendar, but in the days where Oliver Shalom Rabbi Schwartz had a pocket calendar, when you make an appointment, he would write it in calendar. He had a big handwriting, but he would write it in his. So if you had your appointment calendars from years back, and then you found in your calendar that you were going to help Shmirel for this loan thing, that might jog your memory, even though right now you didn't remember ever being involved with the loan. But if you saw your own notes and then it reminded you of it, then you're allowed to testify. We saw that in the previous parak. And then Shnei B'Pruta Mahu. Or Rabbi Yirmiyah also said, if you paid a pruta for their testimony, but it was a 2-for-1, 2 testimonies for 1 pruta. Because you're paying a pruta, is that considered for money? Or because not each one is not getting a pruta, does that not count? And right now we are on 46A3 now at the top. By Rav Ashi also asked, Hotzi Shemra Nisuin Rishon Mahu. So what if he had gotten married to her and then divorced her and then remarried her, and then he's saying that in the original marriage she wasn't a virgin? Or Al Nisui Achiv Mahu. Or what if he married her because he was doing Yibum? His brother was married to her and he died, and now the brother's marrying her, and the brother is saying she wasn't a virgin when my brother originally married her. Does it apply to there? So Pshot Miyachada, we could at least answer one of these questions. The Tani Reb Yonah, because Reb Yonah taught as Biti Nasati Lishazel Lezev Lo Liyava. because in the parsha of Motzi Shemra, the father declares that I gave my daughter to this man, and we'll see the words of the pasuk seems to be ve'ela b'sulei biti. This is the virginity of my daughter. We'll see in the Gemara in a few lines that he'll provide the sheet from the marital bed to show that there is blood on there, that she was a basula, that she was a virgin. So when he makes this declaration, as biti nasati li shazeh, I gave my daughter to this man. So there's a drasha lazevelo liyavam, to this man and not to his brother if he would die and need to do yibam. So the last question of Rav Ashi is answered, but the three questions of Rabbi Yirmiyah and the first question of Rabbi Ashi we don't have an answer to. Okay, my Rabbanon, my Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So on the previous Amud, we had a machlokes that does the husband actually have to consummate the marriage, and when he consummated the marriage, he realized that she wasn't a virgin, and then he can complain, or does he, even if he didn't consummate the marriage, he could say, I think Rashi mentions here somewhere, Rashi doesn't say it here, but someone must have told him something. So even though he didn't consummate the marriage, he claims that she is not a virgin and therefore must have committed adultery.
The Ibum virginity kind of very, very relevant thing and kind of close. So there is a proof that she wasn't.
Yeah, Yosef and Binyamin are brothers. Yosef married Asnas.
Right.
Yosef died pretty soon after the wedding, and Binyamin has to do Yibum because they didn't have any kids. They weren't married that long. Then Binyamin says Asnas had committed adultery before Yosef did the chuppah with her, and she committed adultery on him.
But Yosef agreed on that.
Yosef is dead now. We don't know. We all we know is that Yosef didn't make the claim himself before he died. Now Yosef is dead, and his brother Binyamin is saying that she had committed adultery and she wasn't a basula, she wasn't a virgin at the time that she married Yosef. That's the case.
And Yosef never complained.
Yosef didn't complain, and now he's dead. Look, the best thing I could say is sometimes the Gemara says, Drash v'kibel schar. Make a drasha and get reward for it. And our Drash v'kibel schar should be a big schos for the captives and the kidnapped people right now. My Rabbanon, my Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So what's the source? But we have Rabbi Elazar's opinion and the Chachamim's opinion that they had to have consummated the marriage before he makes the claim, or he didn't. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, what's the procedure or the case of motzi shemra, where literally motzi shemra literally means he takes out a bad name, but it means he's defaming her. He's claiming that she wasn't a basula, and it ends up that he was lying, and really she was. I mean, right, she was, and he just lied about it. Bala based in Ramar, if he came to Basin and says, Ploni va'amar Ploni, and Ploni said, oh no, he says Ploni, so-and-so, meaning her father, I did not find that your daughter is a virgin. If there are witnesses that she committed adultery under him, meaning after he had given her the ring in Kedushin, but before Chuppah, Yesh ksuva mana. She get a ksuva of 100 zuz, as if she's not a virgin. So the Gemara interrupts, and we saw this, I think at Daf Yud Aleph in the first parak. What do you mean that if there's witnesses that she committed adultery, she gets a ksuva? She gets put to death because she was an adulteress. So the Gemara means this is what the Brisa means to say. We're missing a few words. If there's witnesses that she committed adultery, she gets killed with skila. Zinsa meikara yeshik suvamana. If she had a relationship before the kedushin with someone else, so it's true that she wasn't a virgin, but she had some affair before she was ever engaged to this guy, before he ever gave her the ring. So she only has a ksuva of 100 as someone who is not a virgin. Nimsa shemra, eno shemra, and if it ends up that his defamation of her, his claim against her, is not true, hu lokavinos and measela bain bal bain bla ba. He has to get lashes and he has to pay 100 silver pieces, whether he consummated the marriage or not. So that's the Tanakama, the Chacham. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Amar lo nemer dvarim halalu ela kishabah. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says these things were only said if he had consummated the marriage. So now the Gemara is going to try to bring a whole bunch of proofs from the Psukim to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Let me just read the Psukim inside. Okay, Dvarim Perkaf Beis Pasuk Yud Gimel. Kiseitze. Kikach Ishisha Vayleos Now. If a man married a woman and he came to her and he hated her, V'samla Lilos Dvarim, and he placed against her a complaint of words, V'hotzi Shemra, and he put out against her a bad name. V'amar Asisha Zalkati V'karvelav. He says, I took this woman and I came close to her and I did not find that she was Basula. And the father of the young woman and her mother should take, and they should take the virginity of the maiden to the elders of the city to the gate. So that's just the code word for the Beis Din. So what are they taking? So they would take the sheet from the marital bed that would have bloodstains on it. And the father of the maiden will say to the elders, as my daughter I gave to this man as a wife, and he hated her. And he placed a complaint of words against her, saying, I did not find that your daughter was a virgin. But these are the virginity of the virginal blood of my daughter. And he will spread out the garment in front of the elders of the city. And the elders of the man will take that man and remove him, punish him. And they will punish him 100 silver pieces. And they will give it to the father of the maiden, because he gave an evil name on a virgin in Yisrael, and he will be a wife to her. He's not allowed to send her out. So we spoke in the last parak, if she doesn't want, or if the father doesn't want, then pasuk chavim. If it was true, this matter, we did not find the virginal blood to the maiden. So they will take the maiden to the doorway of her father's house, and the men of her city will stone her, and she will die. She did a terrible thing in Israel, to commit adultery in the house of her father, and you will eliminate the evil from your midst. So that's all the psukim from motzi shemra. So we saw last week 3 situations. When would they kill her by her father's house? When would they kill her by the city? And when would they kill her in the regular Beis Din's execution courtyard? Now the Gemara is going to try to bring proofs that it must have been that the husband consummated the marriage, and so motzi shemra would only take place if a marriage was consummated. It can't take place if it was, the whole procedure wouldn't take place if it wasn't consummated. So we understand Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov that he had to have consummated the marriage. That's why it says he came to her and I came close to her, meaning these are just words to meaning that he consummated the marriage and he knew that she wasn't a virgin. So according to Rabbanan, who do not require him to have consummated the marriage, why does the pasuk use these words? You come to her, he will come close. I came close to her. So the Gemara answers, the Chachamim learn uvayla balilos. He came to her with this complaint, ve'ekravela bidvarim, and I came close to her with words. It's good according to Rabbi Ben Yaakov that the husband said, I didn't find to your daughter, he said to his father-in-law, that she was a virgin. So how did he not find? Because he consummated the marriage and she wasn't a basula. So what is, according to the Chachamim, what does it mean lamatzasi? I didn't find. How would he have found if he didn't consummate the marriage and find her that she wasn't? So the Gemara says lamatzasi levidcha kishari basulam. I didn't find people who upheld that she was a virgin. So Rashi says, meaning witnesses came and said that she had committed adultery after the Kedushin, and the husband is saying, I can't find any witnesses to contradict them or to conflict with them. Because we mentioned a week or two ago that if two witnesses clash on facts, two sets of witnesses, we don't know who to trust, and we just keep the status quo. We can't listen to one pair of witnesses over the other. So if that would have happened, let's say two witnesses said, we saw her go into the into place X with this other guy, so on such and such a day, and then other witnesses said and such and such a time, and a different group of witnesses says that couldn't be because she was with us at a restaurant at that time. So that's a conflict whether the woman was there or not. We can't listen to either set of witnesses, so we have no witnesses that she was in that place where the first witnesses claim she committed adultery. But in that case, no punishments happen to either witnesses. Eidim Zomamim is when the first Eidim say, we saw her in place X with this guy at such and such a time. And then the other witnesses testify about the first group of witnesses. You couldn't have witnessed that because you were with us at that time doing whatever. So you were in the by the used car lot looking at cars. So you couldn't have been there when you claim. So those witnesses get put to death. They're Eidim Zomamim. So Rashi points out that the husband says, I can't find any conflicting witnesses or Eidim who would testify against the witnesses to make them Eidim Zomim either. Bishlama l'Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Hanuk Siva Eila b'Sulei Biti. So it makes sense according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that the marriage had to have been consummated because the parents said they wait, did I skip something here? This is the signs of the virginity of the daughter. If he didn't consummate the marriage, how would they have any the sheet from the marital bed to show that it had bloodstains on it, that she was a basula? The Eila Tishare Basule Biti. So the Gemara says it just means these are people. It's not talking about the literal sheet, but it means these are people who will uphold the Basula of Biti, that the husband is bringing witness, the father is bringing witnesses, but it's not the literal sheet. So then the Gemara asks the next question, Bishlam Rabbi Zeren Yaakov, how did you for so simla? But according to the pasuk doesn't say this is a Basula Biti. It says they unspread the sheet, the garment. So according to the Rabbanan, if they didn't have to consummate the marriage, there is no garment to unspread. So what's the Torah talking about? Al Rabbanan Mayu Parsu Simla. So according to the Rabbanan, what is this garment or the sheet that they're spreading out? Rabbi says Persu Mashashamla. They explain that which had been accused against her. The Kedatani's we learned in the Brayso Parsu Simla. You spread the sheet Malamet Shabain Eidim Shalzev Eidim Shalzev. That witnesses for this side come and witnesses of the other side come. And they clarify the matter like a new garment. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov Amar Devarim Kiksavan, but the Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov says it's meant literally, simla mamish, a literal sheet. So we see that the Rabbi quoted a brisa that the word that the parsua simla is a figurative phrase, whereas Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov learns it literal. So now in the last paragraph on 46a4, third line from the bottom in the very wide lines at the very bottom of Memvav Aleph. Shalach Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yaakov bar Giure bar Rav Yaakov bar Giure mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rav Yaakov bar Giure sent in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, so now we're going into something a little bit strange. There's a halacha. So the Gemara in Makos, let me introduce it this way. The Gemara in Makos says that Rabbi Akiva said, and someone else also said, if we would have been in Sanhedrin, we never would have put anyone to death. That was when the Mishnah says that if a court kills every 7 years, once in 7 years, it is a destructive court, a bloody court. So the Gemara says, how would they have gotten people off in a case of adultery? So Rabbi Akiva says, we would say, did you actually see the actual act itself of the arayos? I guess lahavdil, and we shouldn't do this, but in acting school, when they would do acting like that, they don't actually do the thing. They just make it look like that. So Rabbi Akiva would say maybe they were lahavdil. It was like doing the movie, so there was no actual arayos taking place, so we wouldn't put them to death. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion for the level of testimony needed to put someone to death for a case of arayos or znos or something like that. And what do the Chachamim hold? So there's the Shmuel teaches that there's a gzeres because of menafim when they look like they're committing adultery together. So you don't have to actually see the exact act, but it looks like what they're doing is what's happening when the act is taking place. That's enough of a knowledge of what's going on to testify and to believe that they're actually committing adultery. That's what the Gemara in Makos says. So then the question is, or let me introduce this another separate way. There's a medrash that says that in Parshas Chai Sarah, after Sarah died, that we will read in about a month, Emir Shem. So Avram sent Eliezer, and the pasuk is talking about that Eliezer was talking to Besuel, and suddenly Besuel's out of the picture, and only Lavan and his mother are in the picture. So what happened to Lavan and Besuel? So Rashi is on one medrash that Besuel was trying to poison Eliezer to steal all the money, and the Malach moved the table. It was a round table, and Besuel got the food, and Besuel died. That's one medrash. Another medrash that, and this is actually similar to what we saw in Gimel, there in those times, the governor or the whatever would take the virginity of any girl before she got married, and Besuel was the governor of his place. So Besuel got struck down so that Rivka would be a Besula for when she'd marry Yitzchak. So that's similar. We saw in Daf Gimel that what was the Gezerah? The Gezerah was that the Hegmon would sometimes be in town, and if you hear there was a Jewish wedding going to happen, he would help himself to the Kala before the wedding. We saw the way at the beginning on Daf Gimel here of Kesuvos. So Rashi also points out that in the time of Rivka, this is a different medrash, that the girls were very immoral and amoral, but they pretended to be not to be so immoral. So what does he say? What does Rashi say? Rashi says that they went with whoever they wanted to, but they only had relations shelo kedarka. They didn't have it the normal way. So they were still a basula, even though they had fooled around with many people before they got married. So that's bia kedarko versus bia shelo kedarko. So obviously, she would only lose her basula and lose her virginity if the sexual relationship happened with the normal way. If it happened in the not normal way, she would still have her hymen intact and still be a basula. So Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rabbi Yaakov bar Gurin, name of Rabbi Yochanan, says, even though the Torah does not differentiate between a sexual relationship in the normal matter to the not normal matter in regard to getting lashes or for punishments, death penalties, if people would commit adultery or incest using a bia in the not normal way, they'd get the regular punishment. Aval motzi shem rachalak. But motzi shem is different. Eino chayav achayivel shelo kedarko v'yotzi shem kedarko. He'd only get the special punishment of when he was lying to give, to pay 100 shekel and to get lashes, only if he didn't consummate the marriage the regular way. He did it in the not normal way, the Yotzi Shemer Kedarko, but then he claims that she wasn't a virgin, which he wouldn't really know because he didn't have relations with her that way. That's what Reb Yitzchak bar Rav Yaakov bar Giuri said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So come on, who sheet does that accord by? Rabbi Yochanan was only an Amora. Does it fit with Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov? No, he needs a regular consummation of the marriage. And does it accord with the Rabbanan that you don't need any consummation at all? No, it doesn't fit with the Rabbanan either. Ik Rabbanan, if it's like the Rabbanan Afakav de Labah, you don't need to have any bia at all. Ik Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov, we turn the page to 46a b2. But Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov would hold that it was a regular type of bia through the regular place, which would cause Basulim to go out. So what is Rabbi Yochanan's opinion based on? So Ella Shalach Rav Kahana Mishmeid Rabbi Yochanan. So with the statement that we just had, there was a mistake in the text, but Rav Kahana sent to Bavel a teaching from Rabbi Yochanan, Eino Chayav Achivo Kedarka V'Yotzi Shemer Kedarko, that he's only chayav for the two punishments if he was boil her in the regular way, and he was motzi shemra about the normal way. Now, there's no other way to be motzi shemra, but I guess because the first part he has to say jivo kedarko, it says v'yotzi shemra also kedarko. So it ends up that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov, or no, Rabbi, it's a plain Rabbi Lazar, right? No, it's Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov, that it needed to be that the whole process only takes place when he was boil her in the regular way. Okay, Mishnah. The father merits for his daughter in her kedushin money, whether it was with money, or even if it was a star, or if she got married with bia, because the Gemara, the first Mishnah in kedushin says there's three ways to betroth the woman: with money, which we usually give a ring, or by a star that says you are hereby betrothed to me with this star, or with bia. They do bia l'shem kedushin, and then they're not allowed to do bia again until the chuppah. The father also, if she found a lost object, he gets the monetary benefit of it. He also gets to keep her wages, and if she makes a vow, he's able to cancel it. Umekabel gita, and if she's still a katana or a nara, and she got divorced before the chuppah, he gets the get. The eino ochel peros b'chayeha. But if she inherited property from her mother, so let's say her mother didn't have brothers, and so her mother inherited property from her father, so meaning this girl's grandfather, and then the mother died, and she didn't have any sons either, and this was her daughter, so her daughter inherited these fields that her mother had inherited from her father. So the father is not allowed to get any benefit from the fields, meaning if let's say you plant, it's an orchard and they have esrog trees or lemon trees, whatever, he's not allowed to get the money from the money that the field is generating. So if the daughter dies, then he will get the field by inheriting it from her if she doesn't have any descendants. But the father is not allowed to make money from it doesn't keep the money that the field is generating because it's not his field, it's his daughter's field. So Rashi says this, I just want to point out, he says, El Osin la skula. So what's a skula? We talk about Am Yisrael as an Am Segula. So it's usually that we're a treasure. But I think Rashi, because Rashi uses this word several times here, I think the more accurate is a word, it's a trust. So any money that the field generates, the father has to put in a trust for his daughter. And that means that when we're on Am Segula, we're Hashem's trust fund. Nises, if she got married and did chuppah, so it's not just Erison, but the Nesuin case, Yasser Lev Habal, so the father has all the husband has all of the things we just spoke about. Obviously, he can't marry her off or anything because she's married to him. So the father, so now the husband will be the one who will nullify her vows. But if she brought this property into the marriage, her husband is allowed to use the income that the fields are generating. And he must feed her, and he has to redeem her if she was held hostage or captive. And if she died, he has to pay for her burial in the proper way. Rabbi Yehuda says even a poor person in Israel is not allowed to do less for his wife than 2 flutes. The flute sounds were supposed to inspire weeping, and some type of person who would give a lament, a sad thing for the it's time already. We're late. For the funeral. So we'll leave it here. I forgot it was 6:05, not 6:15.